So my name is Kelly McAllister, and I'm the current chair of the College and University section of the North Carolina Libraries Association. And I am also your tech support. So please review the chat box for my contact information in case you experience any technical difficulties, which I will be putting right here. If you are interested in presenting yourself, please check out the call for proposals at the bottom of the page, and we would love to have you present, so please consider it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Mollie Peuler and Mark Coltrane from Central Piedmont Community College. Take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. Like Kelly said, I'm Mark, and my title here at CPCC is Assistant Director for Instructional and Research Services, which is kind of a mouthful, but I oversee the instruction department here in the library.
And I'm Mollie. As Kelly introduced me, I'm the eLearning librarian here at Central Piedmont, so supporting our online courses as well as instructional design. And
it's good to see so many people here. I see some familiar names, so a shout out to all the North Carolina people. I'm glad to have the non-North Carolinians here as well. I'm glad to have you all here. And we're actually happy to take questions as we go. We have quite a bit of ground to cover, and as we were planning for this, we realized, we might even, we're thinking of doing a part 3 if that works out. So this will be part 2 of a 3-part series because there's a lot of information that we have to share with you guys. And so today we're going to focus mainly on readiness to establish a course design project or program at your library, kind of assessing your readiness and some ideas and tips and examples from CPCC to maybe help you get started. And we'd love to hear ideas that other people have implemented at their schools and in their libraries as well. That's certainly a wonderful thing about these is we can share with people from across many miles. So Mollie's going to tell you a little bit about part 1 that we had back in February.
So just a quick overview, because we realized we weren't quite clear in the description of why this is part 2 if you didn't attend part 1. Back in February, Mark and I actually collaborated with a faculty member here, Carla, one of our English faculty, for just a guided panel discussion about our path to collaborative course design. And we got a lot of really good feedback afterwards of folks asking us for more specifics about our planning process, our procedure. So we thought we'd offer a part 2. I want to be clear, by no means do you need to have attended that session or viewed that session, but if you would like to, the link is here, and it's also available on the North Carolina Library Association CUS page, which Kelly will be sending the link out to. So you can always view the past session, or you can view our slides, which also has access to that information.
Great, thank you. So, today, sort of an overview of where we're going to go. This is our roadmap. We first kind of some ideas about understanding, where you are currently, and then thinking about how ready are you to move ahead with a project like this, like a collaborative course design project where you're working with faculty to design or redesign research assignments in their classes to integrate information literacy at the curriculum level, because essentially that's the thrust of what we're talking about, is how do you do something like that, because it is ambitious and it takes a lot of planning and relationship building and time. So those things are really key, as you'll find out. But I pulled the framework for this from David Shoemaker, who many of you have probably seen speak or heard speak or read his works on embedded librarianship. He essentially has written a book on embedded librarianship. So a lot of sort of the framework of today's discussion actually comes from a presentation that Shoemaker did back in 2013 for the Special Libraries Association. So that's something that will be relevant for our discussion, and I actually have that linked, a link to his slideshow in our references slide at the very end, so if you wanted to look at that yourself, that is available in our PowerPoint, or excuse me, in our slideshow that we'll be sharing. So again, the 3 areas that we're going to be focusing on are listed here. You want to understand where you are in terms of an initiative like collaborating on course design with faculty, because it is a definite shift away from doing a lot of one-shots. And then identifying the factors and barriers that are really in your context. That part is part of assessing your readiness, and then certainly prioritizing your actions so you can seize the best opportunities and overcome any barriers that you might encounter along the way.
Okay, so this is a step that's easy to overlook, and I know that I often overlook this step when I'm moving forward with a big project. It's just taking stock of where you are. So especially with a project like collaborative course design, where you are going to be networking and collaborating with so many different academic departments, faculty members, you need to take a moment to evaluate where you are. So there are a few steps that will allow you to do this, and they're going to let you gauge basically what you need to work on and what you maybe already are accomplishing. So if you already have relationships with faculty members, if you already know their names, you know the assignments, take note of that. It's a lot of things that maybe we do it day to day, but we're not aware of it. And this will allow you to really take stock of what you need to work on. So there are a few questions that you can ask yourself when you start to evaluate where you are. Survey your current level of involvement and relationships. So is your current library team active in liaison work? I know a lot of libraries right now are actively working on liaison relationships. If so, take note of that. If not, are you calling it something else? And survey where you are in that process. This is simple, but survey what library meetings and communities you're involved with. So what college committees are you on? Other than students, who are the library advocates? Do you have, you know, the head of the writing department that loves the library and you can collaborate on course design with them even though they're not a faculty head? Take note of that, as well as areas that there's room for you to improve upon.
All right, thank you. So once you you understand where you are and you have a lay of the land, you really assessing your readiness is the next step. And so we're going to look at a couple of different types of readiness. One has to do with librarian readiness or the departmental readiness within your library. And then the next has to do with the organizational readiness that Mollie will talk about a bit. You know, is the organization ready for you, for this project, right, the school that you might be working at? So really there, in terms of the librarian readiness, which we'll talk about first, there are really three key skills that are involved there to make sure that you're ready. The first of those skills is relationship building. I know we've mentioned that before. We'll probably mention it again a lot throughout the rest of the hour. If you are good at building relationships, that is key. That really is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today. And the other thing is subject knowledge. So, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes, and then certainly organizational knowledge, and Mollie will talk about that as well. But in terms of building relationships, at CPCC, we have had a successful embedded librarian program since about 2010. And through that, we have been able to really gain the trust and get to know a lot of our faculty at a level that we really weren't expecting going into it. But the whole point of the program, it was established to support online students better. And we have a very high-touch model at CPCC where we've gotten enrolled in our learning management systems course shells. We post announcements, we post content in Blackboard. Blackboard is our LMS. And through that, we've really gotten really a more intimate view of how students interact with each other in a class, with the faculty member, gotten to know the faculty, the assignments really well. And that's allowed us to have opportunities for lots of rich conversations with faculty about student work, about the types of assignments. We started to see maybe pain points in some of the assignments that faculty have assigned and maybe been using for years and years and never thought to maybe rethink it a little bit or change a few aspects of an assignment, maybe make it a better experience for students and for the faculty as they deliver and grade it. So that's really allowed us a lot of good insight over the years. So I'm going to play a couple of clips of faculty from CPCC talking about that. The first clip, I want to set this up, is from Jamie Pollard-Smith here on the left. She's an English instructor here at CPCC. And hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio okay. The audio quality in this is a little subpar, so I apologize if it's not the best, but you can certainly access this after the presentation, depending on how clear it is. And really the English department, I think this is common in a lot of libraries. The English department is probably our nearest and dearest, or our nearest and dearest friends are there. We've worked with them the longest, and they're actually the ones that helped us to establish the framework for collaborating on designing courses or redesigning courses and assignments within their department. So Jamie will talk a little bit about how we work together on rubrics.
One of the last pieces was Mark and I worked together to create rubrics and to build rubrics for the assignments. And the reason it was important for us to have that discussion with Mark as the librarian was because we really wanted to see the rubrics as teaching tools, not just grading tools for the teachers, but as learning tools for the students. And so we wanted them to be able to see exactly what they're supposed to hit with their research. If we're saying, you know, you have to have research, we wanted it to be very specific on the rubric of what they need to do with that, how they need to break it down. And by Mark collaborating with us on that to create the rubrics, we were able to see that he knew exactly what was expected of the students. And so it wasn't just, hey, if you need help with research, go talk to Mark. It was, he understood what the assignment was, he knew what worked, what didn't.
Okay, so we got a little bit of feedback from someone. Thank you, Emily. The audio is a little muffled, so it's, yeah, apologies. I knew it was probably going to be a little touch and go with the audio for this clip. So essentially, Jamie is talking about how I collaborated with them a few years ago on, when we were kind of first starting our journey down this path, how we kind of collaborated on co-writing rubrics for the research assignments in this class. And I spent a lot of time with Jamie and Rebecca Fagan, who's on the left there, who's another English faculty. We spent a lot of time in meetings and workshopping ideas and making sure that the language was clear and that students would understand and things like that. So in the next presentation, if part 3 happens, which we're hoping it will in a few months, I'll be happy to share some of those rubrics with you that we worked on together, and to kind of give you some artifacts to kind of see what exactly we're talking about. But just the notion of a librarian and an English faculty collaborating on writing a rubric, a few years ago, that was unheard of at CPCC. And so that just is a testament to where we've come from with the trust that we've gained with our faculty by just through our embedded librarian program and providing excellent service and adding a lot of value to, you know, in their classes for their students and for the faculty too. So that's just an example of where those relationships can take you. But it's really taken us years to get there. So I'm not going to say, stand up here and tell you this is going to happen, you know, next semester if you start something at your school. It will take time to develop and build that trust. I'm going to try this other clip. Again, the audio is a bit better with this one, but how well that'll translate to you guys, I don't know. So we'll try it and see. And this is Carla Jones, who Mollie mentioned a little earlier. She's another faculty member that we collaborated with in behavioral health and wellness classes.
By working with you guys in the library, it made them more passionate about their change. Adding this research component, like I said, you're kind of holding them accountable for actually learning about it in addition to change, because you never know where you're headed, what you know when you start it. So they're like learning where they're at and some steps they need to grow. And I think it's a great thing, a great experience for them. They can carry it on to 4-year college and graduate school. For other instructors at the college, if they're
audio is worse on this one, probably because of the music in the background. So that was a little bit more produced of a video. So again, if you have time, we'd love it if you watch these. If you download the slideshow after the presentation. If you have any feedback, let us know. But the work that we've done with Carla, again, we'll talk more specifically about in part 3. But that was an extension of what we did with English, essentially. And really what we did in English has allowed us to do projects like we were doing with health, where we actually have collaborated on a signature assignment that is in every section of health, the behavioral health and wellness classes here. So the library collaborated on a required research component that's in every section of Health 110 every semester. So again, that's an example of where these relationships can go. So I'm going to move on now to talk a little bit about subject knowledge, which is another of the 3 key skills that librarians need to succeed. By subject knowledge, I think most people think, you know, if you have another master's degree or background in a particular area like history or business, liaising to like the business or history department. At the community college level, we're often generalists. So rather than saying that we're liaising to specifically business because we have a business background, doesn't happen as frequently in our context. So we've reframed our subject expertise as information literacy experts. And I know that might sound simplistic and kind of go without saying, but it is a way to kind of identify us to faculty. No one else here at CPCC is identifying in that way. And fake news, I will say, has given us an incredible gift. I know that might sound odd, but it has given us an incredible gift when talking to faculty, because I think that really contextualizes information literacy in a way and kind of grounds it in reality that really is really compelling to faculty and students. So that's where we are expert in, and we're experts in the assignments, research assignments. We really have a lot of insight into those because we see students with those every day, and we are constantly assisting them. So framing that as you're going in and talking to faculty is a really, I think, a compelling way to present yourself. And again, I know that might go without saying, but it is something to remind yourself of. Some of this advice is very simple and kind of things that are easy to overlook in your day-to-day. And right here is a screenshot from a LibGuide that some of our librarians at CPCC have created for fake news. We've actually created 2 LibGuides. One deals with areas focused for faculty, and one is focused on students, or the primary audience. And we've actually developed a series of workshops for both faculty and students about fake news. And again, I know lots of libraries are doing that. The faculty ones have gone over really well, and in that workshop in particular, we speak or give them ideas of strategies of how they can address fake news in class, give them assignment ideas and activity, in-class activity ideas to sort of broach this topic. Because frankly, a librarian is not always going to be available to do these types of workshops or information literacy sessions because there are about 14 or 1500 faculty here, adjuncts and full-time, and the librarians, there'll never be enough of us to go around to support those. So if we can kind of educate faculty in this way, that is another example of how we are building relationships and really kind of not hiding our lead under a bushel basket, so.
Okay, so the third part of librarian readiness is organizational. So as uncomfortable as it may sound, I don't want to say that you might have to play the politics of your institution, but you do need to understand them. So know how it is at your school. As much as we have our library themes, the frameworks that we're aware of, whatever the common initiatives are and the departments that you want to work with, or your college or university overall, you should study those. For a lot, it's assessment right now, so making sure you're aware of what's going on in that area. Data on retention, completion, success rates, all of that information that you can study up on. If the goal is to collaborate with academic programs in order to improve research assignments, you're going to need to speak their language. So I know what I'm talking about when I mention the frameworks, when I talk about research as inquiry. And maybe there's a few English faculty that know as well, but likely they don't speak that language. So you're going to need to learn how to speak their language, whether that's the objectives of their course, whether that's their learning outcomes, etc. So what we've created here is basically a standards matrix. What you're looking at is you can see that the frameworks have been pulled forward. We have the general overview, the keywords, but we've also mapped those to the critical core proficiencies, to the AACU rubric, as well as the courses affected. We have the general courses right here, but the next step is actually to map this specifically with outcomes. That's something we're already working on. I just don't have it updated on this slide. But we would specifically map the English 111 outcomes to this matrix as well. So how do you get here to this organizational understanding? Oh, I'm not finished yet. No worries. Mark's rushing me along. So there are several ways that you can become more familiar with the organizational culture. Become involved in those major college initiatives, including those ones that deal with assessment. So here at CPCC, Mark and I are both involved with a few. We have something called the Online Strategic Plan for online. We have Critical Core, and that's what everyone is talking about right now, so we make sure that we're engaged with that. This is going to sound really simple, and I'm sure a lot of librarians are already doing it, but read up. So accreditation, for example, if you are SACS accredited, you need to make sure that you're familiar with that terminology, with those bodies of knowledge. So again, you can speak the language of your institution. And just the smaller things that you can study up on and read up on, put it on your calendar that you need to start studying the prereqs, that you need to become familiar with retention rates so that you make sure that you're familiar. Other library support, or I'm sorry, student support services. So there's a group that I'm involved with called Online Student Support Services. And it doesn't seem like it would relate to collaborative course design, but if I'm becoming familiar and aware of other student support services that are serving students, that might affect how I'm going to design an assignment. So in what ways is the student going to reach out to the library? In what ways are they going to reach out to the Writing Center, etc.? Okay, so organizational readiness. So you can speak the language and you've studied up on accreditation standards, on frameworks, on outcomes, but if you build it, will they actually come? So there are a few components to this that you can see listed, and a lot of this organizational readiness just comes back to building those relationships, you know, related in that triangle that Mark shared earlier, as well as educating. So by organization, I mean your internal organization, the library, as well as your larger organization, your institution. So when you're looking at your executive champion, let's talk about library admin. So you probably all have different types of relationships with your admin. Maybe some are very hands-off, some are very hands-on. You can do whatever you want. It's wonderful. You have micromanagers. It depends, right? Well, as an example, what we did here is we're in a great department where we have really supportive admin, but they do have their hands in a lot of pots. So we had to take time to do some educating. So we set up meetings, we taught them about the collaborative course design program, and that allowed them to be our champions outside of the library. So they have initiatives that they're involved with that we're not even a part of. They can be champions for us. Next, the strong working relationships with middle managers. I'm not sure if Mark agrees or disagrees with me, but I think this is one of the most important in regards to organizational readiness and relationships. When you start to build relationships with the faculty head of English, that's going to go a long way. So maybe you haven't made those first steps, you haven't had those conversations, and they're not ready. It doesn't matter what plan you've built. If you decide that you have some suggestions for their research assignment and they're of the mindset of, this isn't broken, I don't need to fix it, you're not going to get very far. But if they are ready and willing, then that's going to bring us, hopefully and likely, to external library advocates. So what I mean by this, often the middle managers that you've built those relationships, that you've educated, and they are ready to take on collaborative course design, they're going to become your advocates. So an example of this, I was outside of my office in the public sphere of the library, and an adjunct faculty came in. I'd never met him before, and he said that he was sent to us to talk to a librarian because he was new and he heard that we could help him with his research design. To me, that means success in our program if someone's coming to us without us reaching out to them. And again, that's the trickle-down effect. We started with our executive champion, moved to middle managers, and then his department head sent him to the library. The next thing, autonomy for the library to start something new and an organizational culture that is open to this type of involvement. So I've spoken to that a little bit, just being open to the type of involvement, but this is really two parts, I would say. The second is sustainability. So if everything goes perfectly, if this was a straight line and you've done all of your assessment and you've built those relationships, etc., then you're going to start having faculty members knock on your door and ask for your help with rubric design, assignment design, etc. We have hundreds of sections of English 111 here, and we have 4 instructional librarians. So you do the math. Obviously, we cannot support all of those sections with one-on-one appointments. So knowing how you're going to move forward and grow with this program is also an important question to ask and have some answers ready. And to again give the teaser for part 3, that's something that we'll talk on more in part 3. I feel like we're putting a lot of pressure on Kelly to approve our proposal for part 3.
Yeah, we haven't even signed in yet, so.
No pressure.
And I actually want to back up for a minute. I wanted to add another anecdote about middle managers. I think Mollie is right. I do agree that that's probably the most important, where you can focus on your relationships. So I'm going to return again to English faculty here, and again, because they are really the source of our program that we've started here. They really were the ones that partnered with us the most and the most intimately, and they are at the earliest stages. A lot of this involves being in the right place at the right time as well. So the English faculty here were faced with an assignment or an entire course redesign per the state of North Carolina for their English 112, which was an argument-based research class, and then it shifted away from that towards a writing across the disciplines model. So again, had I not kind of been in touch with the English faculty, I wouldn't have known that. And then by our relationships, we were invited to be a part of a conversation in that curriculum redesign committee, essentially. So we were the two librarians and then a group of about 8 or 10 English faculty on this committee. So that's really how all this started. But again, had we not been there adding a lot of value as embedded librarians, that wouldn't have led to that invitation to be a part of that. And even going to a regional meeting, or a statewide meeting rather, at a university nearby, at Appalachian State actually, a few years ago. And there it was great to hear the English faculty keynote talking about how faculty need to really rethink their assignments, rewrite them with clarity. And we were there to say, yes, we support this idea. It's helpful for faculty saying to other faculty, but then we can provide evidence from students that we see who may get confused with assignments. So faculty are really willing to listen, especially when you kind of can present them with this information. And so that's a great example of how, again, right place, right time, but it is important to be involved and stay involved and kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on outside the library, because that can really affect how you do your job and starting a program like this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what are the next steps. So if you've been able to, if you have the 3 skills that I mentioned within your library, if your organization is ready, now what do? Well, you kind of have to prioritize. And that can seem daunting because there's a lot of opportunities, but honestly, it might be as simple as, especially if you're a small library, just focusing on that one faculty member that you have a good relationship with and working together to collaborate on a really dynamite research assignment or a series of activities and learning objects that you might place in their course. And then that faculty member can advocate for this collaboration to their supervisor, which would be that middle manager that we were talking about. And then that's how kind of the ball can get rolling on this. So certainly focusing on those small ones and then kind of making those the best of all possible so you can kind of showcase that to the college community and have the faculty advocating for you to their colleagues and their supervisors is really key. We're shameless here. Me personally, I'm shameless about promoting this and promoting our faculty. Any opportunity I can, I'll get faculty on camera, singing our praises, talking specifically about how we've helped retention in their course. But
they don't mind doing it.
And they don't mind doing it. No, I don't have to sweet talk them too much. We're friends, and so I'm shameless about getting them on camera, doing presentations, either presentations within our institution or outside the institution, looking for opportunities to present at non-library conferences to other faculty. A faculty member invited me to go to one here in Charlotte a little bit later this year for English faculty. So I'm really excited to present with her at a non-library conference. So there are lots of opportunities to kind of, again, advocate for yourself and find other advocates out there. The other thing is making sure that you have a jargon-free elevator speech ready to go. Again, it might seem simplistic, but I think sometimes we can get lost in the jargon of information literacy. And we talk about this a lot with students, but when you're talking to faculty or administrators, that's really key. And again, like I said earlier, fake news has given us a gift to be able to talk about information literacy in a way that people understand. That's, again, outside the library context. At a community college, too, you have to keep in mind, in addition to the gen ed side of the house that we work probably the most closely with, there are a lot of trades and programs here like auto body and graphic design and horticulture. So the opportunities to get involved with information literacy in those areas is very fascinating and compelling, and that's sort of our next phase of this. Right now we've been working primarily with the gen ed side, like I said, with English and communications, But with our health example, the personal health and wellness class, that again you'll hear more about in part 3 if we have that, we'll kind of talk about how you can kind of bridge this over to maybe a trade side if you have more non-traditional partners out there. And then, again, we said this before, but like the path is winding and this could take years. It's taken us 6-7 years just to get to this point. And we're really, at the heart of all this is we're moving away, and I think Mollie alluded to this, our current embedded model is very unsustainable. We can't, there won't be enough librarians to keep up with the number of sections and then the type of demand that we're getting. So by working with faculty to redesign research assignments that could be implemented across many or all sections of one particular course, that really maximizes our impact. We're still available for one-on-one research appointments, but we're really shifting away from the one-shots and doing those kind of individual research classes or workshops with students where the faculty brings the students in. So, because they're just really unsustainable. And we're also looking for a path to more authentic assessment. And we're thinking, the idea is that by collaborating with faculty on the rubrics and really kind of communicating with them a lot in terms of how they grade the assignments, if we've done our job and really designed a really wonderful assignment and curated or created a lot of really wonderful learning objects and other resources to accompany that assignment, we're hoping that the faculty grade will really kind of help us close the loop on the assessment, the authentic assessment component that we're really searching for. So those are the things, but certainly you can't do this overnight. So again, start small. Think of how you might design something small that can be scaled up. And again, we're happy to talk to other people if you have specific ideas or questions, even outside of the day, where we're happy to talk to you. So I'll kind of turn things over to Mollie again.
So we keep alluding to part 3. So I do just want to take a minute to say Kelly's going to send out the evaluation survey for this presentation. We hope you enjoyed it, but we are very much thinking about doing a part 3 where we specifically share rubrics that we've worked on, some of the policies that we're using to support this collaborative design process and sustain it over time. So if there is anything that you didn't hear today that you hope to hear, please do let us know. And that could be via the evaluation survey, or you can email Mark or myself anytime, really. So thank you for attending. We thought we would go over. We're both kind of talkers, but it looks like we kept it pretty short. Thank you for your patience with the audio problems. Again, if you'd like to view those videos on your own, you can.